daqiiqaan keenya takka to'ate waan ta'eef ofirraa dabarsuun deema. Mana kana walgahii kana guutuu namni mudannoo godhuu qaqqajeelchuu Dr. Baaruudha. Dr. Baaruun koree qindeessituu konfiraansii kanaa ta'anii hojjetaa turanii isaan qofayyuu miti. Koree biroo qabna duratti namni waa'ee koree teekinooloojii qabdu jedhee gaafatee ture. We have about 3 other committees warra waan kana irratti hojjetu rapid reports team kan jedhu qabna. Rapid response teamiin kun duula abashaan galgalaa galgalaa viidiyoodhaan irratti bantu kanaaf deebisuudhaaf warra qophaa'e achi keessattis Dr. Baaruun koree san mataa ta'anii hoogganu. Namoota barreessuu danda'an, namoota ogummaa gurguddaa qaban keessattuu barreessuu irratti, haasa'uu irratti isin keessaa nama baay'ee barbaanna jechaadha. Teekinooloojiidhaan warra dandeettii qabdan ni barbaanna. People who can write articles, responsive warra kennuu danda'u. Kanaafuu achi keessattis nu hirmaachuu dandeettu. We are looking for a lot of human resources. Dandeettii keessan qabattanii nu jala addunyaa irraan galina nuu kennaa haa qindeeffannuu haa waliin tolfannuu isiniin jechuu barbaada. Kanumaanin gamoonnaa dabarsaa baruudhaaf koree kana irratti hojjetaa turtan marti keessanuu galatoomaa warri pirezenteeshinii dhiyeessitan warri dhuftanii dhaggeeffatan warri gaafatan yeroo maraa jiru deddeebinee galatoomaa isiniin jenna. Kana caalaa immoo babal'ifnee akka hojjennu humna walii haa taanu. Dr. Baaruu dabareen keessatti. Dr. Baaruu mana keessa jirtu? Carraan kennuudhaaf na fakkaate.
Mute of Godajira.
Oh, Dr. Baru, mute.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I thought I was on as when I started, but I did block it for a few minutes. Thank you, Jamal. I was just saying, for those of you who are joining us today, thank you very much for coming. We're thrilled to have you. For those of us who are coming for the second time, we are very encouraged. It means you loved what you saw yesterday, what you heard yesterday, and that's why you are joining us. That's the way we want to reason. Thank you for being with us. I'm not going to add anything. Mr. Jamal has said everything, so I'm going to pass it over to today's first panel moderator, Dr. Badasa Adesa. Please take it over, sir. And I wish to plead with everybody, let's keep our time as we are allocated for today. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dr. Baru. I'm here to call to the stage our next speaker. Our next speaker is well known among the academia and the Oromo and across the world for a number of studies. I wouldn't be able to go through all of his works, but just briefly, I want to say a couple of things. Professor Asafa Jalata is a professor of sociology and global and Africana studies at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. He is a leading scholar on the politics and societies of Oromia, Ethiopia, the Horn of Africa, and international issues. He is a world-renowned expert on Oromo studies, without any question. Professor Jalata as a leading social scientist in the field. He is a leading social scientist in the fields of indigenous and human rights studies, Africana and global studies and nationalism. He is actively engaged in identifying, explaining the change of historical, political, economic forces that shape racial inequality, development, underdevelopment, and socio-national movements on local, regional, and global levels, as his presentation today depicts. He has published, among others, 12 books and roughly 80 peer-reviewed journal articles. And I just want to point out maybe three of his books. I'm biased here. Among his books are one that was published in 2007, titled Oromo Culture, Identity, and Nationalism. contending nationalism of Oromia and Ethiopia, struggling for statehood, sovereignty, and multinational democracy in 2010. And as recently as last year, he has another book, Cultural Capital, Democracy in Ethiopia and Botswana, and the Oromo movement and imperial politics, culture, and ideology in Oromia and Ethiopia is his most recent publication in 2020. Without further ado, I would like to call Professor Asafa to the stage, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Barata. I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation. Thank you again, Dr. Barata, for a wonderful introduction. As you know, my title is Ethiopian Settler Colonialism and Epistemological Genocide in Oromia and their consequences. First of all, I'm going to demonstrate the connections among colonial terrorism, settler colonialism, and genocide in general, and ethnocide or mental genocide, epistemological genocide or mental genocide. I'm going to build on yesterday's presentation, although I'm not going to detail what was presented yesterday, but I'm going to today focus on specific kind of genocide called epistemological or mental genocide and their consequences. The connection among colonial terrorism and the settler colonialism and the epistemological genocide has a very serious consequences for continued subjugation for people who survived all of those crimes against humanity. Ethiopian settler colonialism was constructed through chains of actions, which involved many factors. One of them was colonial terrorism, slavery, that we don't talk a lot about it, genocide, and the continued subjugation. My focus is to address the people who survived, the issue of the people who survived colonial genocide. Colonial genocide involved also expropriation of lands, cattle, grain, cash crops, and other resources. So what you see is that I'm going to deal with the political economy of genocide. I'm not going to deal only with ideology, with certain actions, but I would like to demonstrate politics, economics, ideology, how they work together to affect the surviving population. The surviving Oromos were forced also to provide free labor as slaves or semi-slaves for the Naftaniyas and the Oromo collaborators. Usually when we talk about this kind of problems, we forget the consequences that Oromo collaborators have been doing on Oromo. First of all, I'm going to address the issue of terrorism. In my book, Faces of Terrorism in the Age of Globalization, from Christopher Columbus to Osman bin Laden, I define terrorism as a systematic policy through which lethal violence is used to impose terror on a given population group, their leaders, and the institutions to change their behavior of resistance to domination. So mainly, what people might wonder why terrorists are engaging in act of terrorism. They want to terrorize people so that people will not fight for their rights. That's what has been happening to Oromo people. Terrorism is mainly employed to obtain free labor, economic resources such as land, grains, cattle, and cash crops. So the practice of attacking, raiding, capturing, and owning human beings in the process of dispossessing of land involved colonial terrorism. So if you study the cases of indigenous peoples in the Americas, in Asia, Australia, and Africa, you see that. It's not only what happened to the Oromo, it happened to the majority of the world population around the world. We don't have time to discuss those specific issues today. While terrorizing, merchandising, and dispossessing indigenous peoples, the Ethiopian colonizers or the Naftanyas were claiming that they were superior to the colonized peoples and promoting Christianity, civilization, and progress. So the video that has been going on Facebook clearly demonstrate what the Abyssinians are claiming. So I'm not going to go to that more than that. Millions of people through slavery, war, disease, destruction of culture, institutions, and leaders. So these are very important, destruction of culture, institutions, and leaders. When you engage in this kind of activities, you are engaging in a mental genocide or epistemological genocide. The colonizers have continued their projects of colonial terrorism, cultural and institutional destruction, genocide, and the continued subjugation of Oromos for almost 150 years. Those are the issues that yesterday presenters addressed in a very detailed way. So the new Naftanya government of Abiy has continued these projects. So people wonder how the present is linked to the past. The past is still existing in the present. That's why the government, the new Naftanya government, is continuing colonial terrorism, genocide, and expropriation of Oromo resources and killing Oromos. As we have heard recently, Abiy went to Kenya and they were saying that he's going to destroy oil if he was inviting people.
Because peace is a foundation for everything we are aspiring, transform the life of our people. If we could eliminate Al-Shabaab and oil from this region.
Abao sharor keessummaadhaan ramaduun yaalii kanaan dura warri isaanirra hidhata baay'ee qaban yaalanii fashale. Qaamni ani Oromoodha jedhu. Qaamni ani qaama araaraati jedhee abaa'ollee araaraan akka biyyatti galu godha. Qaamni asiin dura abaa'u qabsoo hidhannoo yeroo geggeessu odeessaa laggasa wagii fa'aafillee laadhe tokko har'a gadi bahee biyya ollaa dhaqee otoo abaa'u Finfinnee keessa jiru biyya ollaa dhaqee abaa'u akeekuun dogoggora seenaati.
This is a continuation of the same project that started during the last decades of the 19th century. The divide and the conquer policy has been used to involve certain Oromos in colonial terrorism and self-destruction. So it is not only the Naftanyas or the Abyssinians who are engaging in colonial terrorism and self-destruction of the Oromos. These are the people who are collaborating with the Abyssinian system, with the system of settler colonialism, and the Naftanyan institutions are engaging in colonial terrorism. Presently, they are playing a leading role to destroy the Oromo. This is a very serious paradoxical that many Oromos fail to understand. I'm going to explain why this situation takes place in Oromia. The colonialists have destroyed the life and the liberty of the Oromo and other colonized peoples and introduced war and the famine-induced holocausts. The Oromo, yesterday it was explained how the number of the Oromo population was reduced. I'm not going to repeat that. Now I'm going to ask this question and try to answer it. What is the connection between colonial terrorism and epistemological genocide? Despite the fact that definitions were provided yesterday, in order to refresh your mind, also to explain certain aspects of genocide, I would like to give a few definitions, which is very important. Article 2 of the United Nations Convention defines genocide as, quote, acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious groups, unquote. According to prominent scholars, genocide scholars, Frank Chuck and Kurt Johnson, quote, genocide is a form of one-sided mass killings in which a state or other authority intends to destroy a group. These two scholars identify two kinds of genocide. The first type is used to colonize and maintain colonial order by terrorizing people perceived to be real or potential enemies. The second one is called ideological genocide, which involves massacres, institutional and leadership destruction to prevent resistance to colonial domination. These specific definitions are very important in my discussion today. It's not moving. I don't know what happened, guys.
Presentation again.
Dr. Anaaf, presenting godati she godakan. Dokanachi iti go charger.
What is it?
Somebody with the name Cora.
Yeah, sabotage.
No, go to slideshow.
Go to Professor Sefa, use slideshow.
Okay.
The top.
Yeah, you go to slideshow and then
At the bottom?
you can use your arrow to scroll down after that.
The slideshow is
Slideshow to your right-hand side.
Right.
I was not going
Yep,
to.
yep,
Yes, click that.
that's it.
Yes, sir.
Now use arrow.
And somebody with the name Cora something, please stop annotation.
He has been removed. Don't worry about it.
Good.
They're not doing it on purpose. This happens when you're not in the presentation mode.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, T.
Let us briefly look at the Oromo cultural institutions, which help us to understand what I'm going to explain. Before their colonization, the Oromo had freedom and sovereignty under the Gadan Sikh institution or government. You know that they have elected their leaders. Obviously, Oromos were colonized by the alliance of global or European imperialism, Ethiopian colonialism. That I'm not going to talk today because it's very important. When we discuss Oromo issues, we cannot understand the Oromo issue without understanding global imperialism that supports Ethiopian colonialism. But due to lack of time, I'm not going to deal with those issues. The destruction of Oromo leaders and institutions was an aspect of epistemological or mental genocide. The surviving Oromo who used to enjoy an egalitarian democracy were forced to face terrorism, political repression, and an impoverished life. This quotation is very important for our understanding by Alexander Bolotevich. I'm quoting, quote, the peaceful, free way of life, which could have become the ideal for philosophers and the writers of the 18th century, if they had known, was completely changed. Their peaceful way of life is broken. Freedom is lost. And the independent, freedom-loving Oromo find themselves under the severe authority of the Abyssinian conquerors. So as yesterday explained, the continued attack on the Gada system is a system of continuing genocidal act of Abyssinians. They destroyed this system. They try to continue to destroy this system. That's why they are attacking the Gada system today. The destruction of Oromo leaders and the institutions caused epistemological genocide. The Neftanyas replaced Oromo leaders and the institution by the foreign leaders in the institutions. They established the colonial government, the Orthodox Church, colonial education, to mislead and miseducated Oromo children and the media to brainwash. They have created and perpetuated Oromo collaborative leaders or elites who are committed to satisfy their personal interest and the interest of their masters. The Nabtanya system established institutions such as garrison towns in the cities, slavery, the colonial land holding system, the Nabtanya Gabbar system, the Oromo collaborative class, and intensified psychological war on the Oromo. These are very important. After they deleted Oromo culture, Oromo history as much as they could, they created their own institution in Oromia. That's why it's very important to understand the issue of settler colonialism, genocide, and the continuous subjugation, and the mental genocide. The colonialists have intensified the deletion of Oromo history, culture, and language, which are considered mental or epistemological genocide. Oromoma or Oromoness was targeted for destruction. The Oromo identity was localized. Oromos were separated from one another. They were turned on one another and prevented from building national, organizational, and institutional capacity. That's why they are always attacking Oromo institutions. That's why today, the two independent Oromo political organizations are attacked, the OLF and Ofeco. The Oromo were exposed to other cultures and the identities started to develop an inferiority complex. We have to understand that. That is very reality. They imposed inferiority complex on the Oromo and began to change religions, identities, and names. That's why all of us are today have different alien names, alien culture at the cost of our own identity because of mental genocide that happened to our people. Oromo collaborators have become tools, implemented terrorist and genocidal policies, and have continued to attack and destroy the Oromo revolutionary leadership. That's why today the Kairos Oromo nationalists are targeted. The main idea is to eliminate leaders, to eliminate the institutions so that Oromos cannot defend themselves, Oromo cannot fight for their right. Today's Oromo collaborators are the numerical majority in the so-called Ethiopian parliament and the administration and the army. It is very paradoxical. Everywhere you go, they are Oromos. But these people who are considered Oromos are the tools who are implementing colonial policies. That is a very difficult question to answer. I'm trying to address those issues today so that we can have some understanding. These collaborators are participating in terrorizing, imprisoning, killing Oromos in Oromia today. The Oromo intermediaries have brought violence to their own people. If you read Franz Fanon, The Wretched of the Earth, you can understand how collaborators are engaging colonial terrorism and destroying their own people. These collaborators maintain Ethiopian settler colonialism in Oromia. They wear Ethiopian masks. That's why Abiy is saying, and many others. That's why Lama Magarsa is saying Ethiopia Suznat. These collaborators imitate their masters, namely Habasha masters. They talk about the greatness of Ethiopia and the weakness of Oromia. They struggle to destroy our independent organization. A few of these collaborators are rewarded extravagantly with fame, fortune, and celebrity status. Collaborators are less competent to speak truly. They are less competent and less intelligent individuals. That's why they want to ally with enemy to get these rewards, to get fame, to get celebrity. Because if they compete with other Oromo nationalities, they cannot be successful. Therefore, they have to serve the enemy in order to serve their own interests and the interests of their masters. They only promote their personal interests and the interests of their indigenous masters at the cost of Oromo national interests. Why? Their Oromoness was deleted and replaced by Ethiopianism. The Oromo collaborative elites have internalized their masters' worldviews, which is called the oppressor within. Unfortunately, many of us carry the oppressor within because our culture and history have been deleted, and we have been trained in schools and religious, Abyssinian religious institutions. So the collaborators suffer from immense political ignorance and an inferiority complex. Dehumanization and de-Oromanization have disconnected them from their society. Their understanding of their individual biographies and the collective Oromo history is limited or non-existent. Oromo collaborators have damaged psychology. The colonizers were not satisfied by colonizing Oromia and its resources and destroying Oromo leaders and institutions. They have opened a war on Oromo psychology. Consequently, millions of Oromos today carry the bandage of the badge of shame and wear Ethiopian masks. The collaborators more reflect Habesha culture and world views than that of the Oromo. The Oromo collaborative elites feel inferior and they do not manifest self-confidence. Psychological wars on Oromo psyche have created auto-oppressors or the oppressors within most of Oromo elites. So we have been inculcated with the ideology of the enemy that will become auto-oppressor or oppressor within our service. Passing through colonial institutions have serious consequences for all educated Oromos. We Oromo elites didn't yet fully equip ourselves with liberation knowledge. We don't have educated know our history, culture, and the worldviews, so we can be easily manipulated to claim Ethiopia. That's what happened in 2018. The people who were calling themselves nationalists turned 360 degrees. They started to claim the Ethiopian. In fact, they are started to promote Ethiopianism, the Amhara and the Tigrayans. We have limited critical knowledge and political consciousness because of the ideology of Ethiopianism. Most of us give lip service to the Oromo national struggle, and our contribution to the Oromo struggle is very limited. So we have to ask ourselves a very serious question. Oromo intellectuals, we Oromo intellectuals are not fully contributing to the Oromo struggle. The reason why that happened is our psychology have been affected. We are not dedicated to our Oromo cause. We are not fully convinced that we can liberate ourselves. So those kind of obstacles must be crushed by equipping ourselves with the liberation knowledge. Since our psyche have been affected negatively, we usually focus on petty issues and self-promotion. Ethiopian colonial education miseducated Oromo elites and disoriented our understanding of reality. We have been forced to learn the culture and the history of the colonialists without learning our own history and the culture. Those are the consequences of Ethiopian settler colonialism, state terrorism, and epistemological genocide. Our oppressors have tried to control our minds and psychology. This has caused personal and collective damage on Oromo elites. Our enemies have incapacitated us in two ways. One, by denying education to most of Oromos. Second, by denying those few educated Oromos critical education and knowledge for liberation. We Oromo intellectuals and leaders are disconnected from our cultural and institutional bonds because of mental or epistemological genocide. Successive Ethiopian regions have been trying to kill Oromoma and to force us to accept Ethiopianism, which is the powerhouse of terror, genocide, ignorance, abject poverty, and unfreedoms. Epistemological or mental genocide demobilized most Oromo and forced us to live in misery and ignorance. This is the Oromo. This is why the Oromos who are the numerical majority are political minority today. This is the dilemma of the Oromo struggle. We are the majority, but we are political minority, and we couldn't take our destiny in our hands. How can we overcome all forms of genocide, particularly epistemological genocide? This is a fundamental question we Oromos must answer immediately in order to mobilize, organize, and defend our right by all necessary means. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Professor Asafa. I don't know how the moderators want to, the hosts want to get this done. Probably we have a time for discussion, questions and answers.
Dr. Baharu, would you?
Yes, sir. Right now, Professor Asafa completed his presentation exactly at the time he's given, and we have 34 minutes for Q&A.
Okay, thank you.
From 12 o'clock to 12:30, according to the schedule.
Okay, I think the floor is open, and I would take two questions. I don't know how I should go about this. Maybe can you take off your slides so that we are able to go through, Professor Asafa? Yeah, thank you. And so
I see two names who have raised hands, Dr. Teso Banti and Moses Aga.
It would be great if everybody's encouraged to raise hands in the system to make it easy for you, moderator. Thank you.
And Professor Mokre.
okay, I see here, well, in the order I have. I will start from the top. I don't know who came up first. So I will take three questions. I will start with Dr. Teso, and then Dr. Mosisa, and I don't know, there is someone by the name Administration Pro. Yeah, I get it, Professor Mokre. Please make sure that you finish your question on time so that the presenter has enough time to respond. So let's go with first with Dr. Teso.
Thank you, Dr. Asa, for allowing me to ask this question. Professor Asafa, as usual, you did a wonderful job, and thank you very much. My question is a direct question. You have been always writing about Oromo and Oromuma. The Prime Minister once said, Sabonuma has reduced Oromo. I know that you are not supporting this idea, but in connection to this, how do you define Oromo and Oromuma today? Is being born from Oromo mother and father alone enough to be qualified as Oromo and Oromuma? Worshipping in Oromo language, is it enough? Wearing Oromo cultural clothes, such as Abagada clothes, everybody is wearing nowadays. Does it qualify a person to be just an Oromo, to be or to have this Oromuma identity today? Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Mosisa.
Should I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much, Professor Asafa. It was a wonderful presentation. I learned a lot personally. Now, you explained very well about collaborators in the Oromo society. I would like to make a distinction between collaborators and victims. Victims of what you call mental genocide, who do not know Afan Oromo or Oromo culture, who are totally brainwashed by the Neftanya system, Recently, I listened to a person whose name is, I think his name is Nagara Fayera or Fayera Nagara, I'm not sure. He was saying he wants Oromia dismantled overnight. Actually, he is criticizing Abiy Ahmed for not going fast. He wishes that just when he wakes up, Oromia, something called Oromia is dismantled. And apparently this guy is Oromo. So my question for maybe for all of us, and I want you to comment on this, Professor Asafa, what do we do to reach out to these victims? Obviously, these people are brainwashed. They are from Oromo father and mother, but they are brainwashed. They are raised and in Habesha culture, Habesha society. They don't speak Afan Oromo. So that's our challenge. These people have been their own enemy. So what do you, how do you comment on that to the larger audience? What the Oromo people, including people who are in this room or outside of this room, what should they do? Thank you so much.
Okay, one more question, Professor Magria.
Thank you. Thank you, Asafa. I have a question which I'm recently struggling with. It is to define Ethiopianism. What is it, by the way? Have you thought about that, Asafa? Because, okay, Oromo, yeah, we know what it is. There is a culture. Of course, Ethiopia has territory. Oromia has territory also. There is a language called Afan Oromo. Somebody was talking yesterday about language, and that there is no language called Ethiopian language. Amharic is not. It is the language is Amara. So I think we have to define Ethiopianism somehow. It's a difficult one. Our people do not understand what it is. We don't understand what it is. And some people are using that to attack us. Like, for example, Betty is this wonderful journalist. She was terribly attacked when she, because of the book she wrote recently. And one of the attackers is a person who calls himself an Oromo, this Taye Bogale, or what is his name? He says he's a historian. So I think we have to define what Ethiopianism is. We have to try to define, because they have not given us any definition. It is just, you have to love Ethiopia as a territory. That's all. And go and die for it. So I want you to comment on this, Asafa.
Okay, go ahead, Professor Asafa. You have 3 questions.
Mute taate jirta, Professor Asafa.
Galatom, Dr. Mos. There are 3 wonderful questions. I'm going to briefly answer them. The issue of Oromoma is a very interesting one. I define this, I wrote a book on this. I define on many levels. In first level, elementary level, if you're born to Oromo family, if you think that you are an Oromo, you may speak Oromo language, you may not speak Oromo language. If you think that you are Oromo, you are Oromo. Nobody is going to say you are not Oromo. But Oromoma as a national Oromoma has the highest level of, involves the highest level of commitment. That means maintaining Oromo culture, Oromo language, Oromo identity, developing Oromo institutions, and mobilizing Oromo to help them and to liberate themselves. Even that one divided into 2, this commitment, a basic commitment and a high level of commitment. basic commitment like what we are doing today, for example. This is a very basic and elementary commitment because we are doing this at the safe of our house and we are not, nobody is going to kill us. We are trying to help our people. But at the same time, there are Oromos who have highest level of commitment. Today, they are Oromo Liberation Army who are determined to give their lives for their country and for their people, who decide to die rather than accepting slavery, subjugation, mistreatment. So Oromo and the highest level is a very complex one. It also involves many, it has many aspects. For example, engaging in Oromo projects, like this kind, for example, engaging in intellectual enterprise to work for Oromo without being paid, organizing, spending time, all of this level of Oromoma, commitment of Oromoma. The highest, another level of Oromoma is a global, which I call global Oromoma, which means we are going to deal with everybody on equal terms based on our principles, based on our own institutions, which means egalitarianism, social justice, unity of all people from bottom up, without anybody dictating to us. We are willing to work with anybody who believes in egalitarian democracy, social justice, self-determination, and self-determination that involves building your own institution, including government, to go build our own government that would protect our rights, to protect our sovereignty, to protect our resources, without anybody telling us. We are going to ally with anybody who do not tell us to define us. We don't want to be defined by anybody. And that level of Oromoma, when you are equipped with Oromoma, you are going to accept all those principles. Oromoma involves critical knowledge. Oromoma involves history, knowing one's history, going back to many centuries, reading books written on Oromo, understanding it, and assessing what is going to happen, and also developing the future project that will empower the Oromo. So Oromoma is a very complex term, is the way I see it, and it's a very different one from Ethiopianism that I want to talk. Let me go to Dr. Moses' question. All collaborators are victims, mental victims. They lost self-confidence. They only live for their stomach, to get jobs, to get glory, to engage in killing people. I mean, look, those people are in power in Oromia and Ethiopia today. Those people, their hands have been soaked with blood, killing and murdering people. Those are victims, but they act like they are confident. They lack confidence, they lack understanding, they are very pompous. They want to seem that they are knowledgeable people, but in reality, they don't know history, they don't know language, they don't know about Oromo. They want to make you ignorant like them. This guy whom you mentioned, he wants to destroy Oromia. How a person who is a right mind wish the destruction of Oromia? How many lives have been lost to create Oromia? Oromia is not given to us by somebody. Oromo heroes and the heroines gave their lives, they fought, they dedicated their time, their energy to create Oromia, which is not even yet include all parts of Oromia. So I don't know how one can help these victims. The only treatment is by liberating the Oromo people in Oromia. Then they will get precise medicine. Until then, it's very difficult to find for them medicine. Intensifying the Oromo struggle, intensifying the development of Oromo, intensifying critical knowledge, intensifying self-awareness. That is the only way we can help them. No, I don't see any other way. Defining Ethiopianism, I don't think Ethiopianism is complex for me. Ethiopianism is an ideology of Ethiopian settler colonialism that attempts to dehumanize, denigrate, that involves in mental or ethno-genocide, epistemological genocide, that tries to perpetuate colonial domination, that it glorifies Abyssinian culture, it glorifies Amharic language, it glorifies Amhara identity. It has no place for other people. So if anybody tries to tell me that one, I don't see it. If Ethiopianism is not like that, I don't see why they are doing that, what they are doing. So Ethiopianism is a kind of a social cancer. It's an ideology, it's a social cancer that perpetuates subjugation and the dehumanization of the colonized people, including the Oromo. So it's good to even to understand more, because as Professor Mogria said, many of our people don't understand because their culture has been deleted. Their wisdom has been deleted. Their identity has been deleted. So always, even if they resist, they will be killed. They will be murdered. They will be murdered. So many people in Oromos endorse Ethiopianism in fear of death, imprisonment, and the risk it will bring to them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Asafa. Now I have a list of about maybe 5-6 people. I will start with Dr. Dasaleng, and then I have a request internally that came to me because he cannot raise his hand. That is Dr. Warkene. And then I will follow that with Dr. Hambisa, because there is one person ahead of him, but I don't know his name. It is HP. I will give you that last. So Dr. Dasaleng, Dr. Warkene, and then Dr. Hambisa. Please make your question short so that we reach out to other people.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Barasa and Professor Asafa. I really would like to thank Professor Asafa for being my professor, though he was not sitting in front of me or standing in front of me and teaching me as Oromo sociologies or Oromo identity issues, because we have been using his book at Addis Ababa University, which was really instrumental in terms of promoting some of like the myth that was constructed by the Ethiopian historians or the Ethiopian clergy. So I would really, I'm glad to meet him and say thank you for that. And the other point which I want to ask is a question which is related to about the mental genocide. I think, I don't know the statistical data you have in relation to those people who are really collaborators in terms of the number of people we have. Because what is the proportion of these collaborators that we really give them emphasis in Oromo politics? Because I am comparing this with the Cairo movement. And then an issue of Oromo cultural revitalization, there are a lot of activities that have been done in terms of bringing Oromo identity, like creating the Recha as a system of Oromo cultural trade development, where it was a very few people who have been going to the Recha or celebrating Oromo culture. Now it's the whole Oromo issue. And the question of Oromo was by few individuals who started with OLF or Machat Ulama. Now it's an issue of all Oromos, almost all Oromos. So how do you really compare the level of Oromo consciousness today, which is challenging and really deconstructing the false narratives of the Ethiopian or the Habesha system, and which really show that, from my point of view, Oromo is beyond what political sociology is talking that organized minority will lead the disorganized majority. Today, Oromo is the only unique society in the world that is organized on one purpose. That is Oromoma. And where the Oromo has revolted, this is a big move. So how do you compare that, Professor Asafa? Thank you.
Okay, the next one, Dr. Workene. I know we all want to give context to our questions. Please, in the interest of time, make your questions short.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Badasa, and thank you so much, Professor Asafa, for the excellent lesson that you always give us. My question is, the chronic problem of the Ethiopian empire is a failure or absolute denial of equality and respect for the majority citizens of the empire. Why the international community likes to dwell more on the opposites of realities? How can we teach the world the fact that numerical majority and political minority does not give sense? Why we fail to teach the world that that cannot resolve the issues of the Horn of Africa? I think that's I should ask. I have another one, but for the problem of time, I'll stop right here. Thank you.
Okay, one more question, that is Dr. Ambisa Bellina.
All right. I thank Dr. Asafa as well. Thank you so very much for your very informative, educated presentation, Dr. Asafa. I have two small questions. One is, I heard somebody comparing about being an Oromo, born as an Oromo as a hardware and the Oromuma as a software. And since I'm a student of IT, it really made sense to me. So if you would like to comment on that, and what makes, in any society, what makes that person say, what makes an American an American? Likewise, what makes an Oromo an Oromo? And about this issue of the software and the hardware. The second question I have is, in the struggle of the ANC, or in the civil rights movement in the US, we have seen that some progressive whites who were collaborating and working for the struggle of the oppressed. And I have yet to see one individual in Ethiopia who is from the north and is standing with the oppressed. If you'd like to comment on that, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, your stage is yours, Professor Asafa.
Okay, thank you, three of you. I appreciate for your wonderful questions. Dr. Desale, thank you for your wonderful comment about my contribution. You asked me the size of collaborators in relation to Oromos who are conscious, who are struggling for their rights. And also you asked me the level of Oromoma that those people who are struggling for Oromo cause have achieved. The question is not about the question of size. The collaborators have state power. They have access to state power. They collaborate with the Abyssinian regime. Therefore, regardless of their numbers, they play very decisive roles that affect the lives of the Oromo people. They are the ones who say, oh, this is a nationalist, should be killed. This is the ONAG, or this is the OLF, or this is that. This has Oromoma, should be imprisoned, tortured, mutilated, or killed, like what we are seeing. So they have a serious impact on the Oromo, regardless of their number. But at the same time, They are the ones who are dominating institutions, political institutions, economic institutions, educational institutions. They are the ones who are playing key roles. It is true that Oromo consciousness is rising. As we said, cultural renaissance is developing and expanding. The level of Oromo consciousness is growing. But we shouldn't fool ourselves that we have achieved the highest level of Oromo and Oromo consciousness. How do we achieve that? We have developed national organizational capacity that would become state by destroying the institution of repression, institution of destruction. The failure, we didn't achieve the highest level of consciousness, yes. That's why Kero and Kare, after achieving miraculous achievement in 2018, gave power to murderers who have been terrorizing and killing Oromo, and went home. And then within a short time, start to collect the son of Bagada. That shows political incompetence. The consciousness is not reaching the highest level. We need to work more hard to move forward in building institutional and national institutional organizational capacity that will become state, Oromia state. When we create Oromia state, we have our self-defense army. We can protect our children, our women, our resources, our country. Until our consciousness reaches that level, there are a lot of missing links in our struggle. And we have to understand why. Why, for example, after getting closer to state power, we give to somebody and go home. Why, for example, ardent Oromo nationalists give up and collaborate with the collaborators? What is wrong with us? There are a lot of things that are missing that we need to understand. I'm not saying that I know all of these problems, but we need to ask and to answer. Very prominent Oromo nationalists whom we used to respect, admire, are now, we know what they are doing. Why? Why they call the new Naftanya government their own Oromo government? And they couldn't even understand the simple thing that this new Naftanya government is killing Oromos. How can, if it is Oromo government, it kills Oromo children, Oromo women, Oromo nationalists, by establishing command posts, by engaging terrorism, rape, destruction of Oromos? So there are many questions that we have to answer as soon as possible. Of course, this question is a very complex one. It cannot be easily answered. It takes more time. Due to lack of time, I just stop here on this one. On question of Dr. Workene. Dr. Workene, in the world, capitalist world system, the claims of human rights and social justice and democracy are lies, to speak the truth. They don't have teeth. And only the world listens to you when you have power. Might is right. If we establish our power, people, the international community recognize us. Until we become power, until we defend ourselves, the international community is not reported. Look, for example, what has happened in Tigray and Oromia. In Oromia, war has been going on for 2.5 years. In Tigray, only 1 month. How the world is responding because the Tigrayans have guns, organizational capacity to defend themselves. In Oromia, nobody talks about children, women, young people who are murdered. Are hidden because we didn't yet become a power. We have to become a power so that the world understand us. So either the equality, social justice, all these things are, it's not true. If you study the world system, how it has been established, the so-called Western democracies, how they have been established, if you know their history, you don't expect them from anything from them because they have been involved in these criminal activities themselves. You have to understand that. So it's good to talk about the national community, to tell them what we feel, but we have to do our homework before expecting any positive thing from them. The third question is, Dr. Ambisa, the metaphor of hardware and the software. I don't know if, for example, just born as an Oromo make you hardcore. Hardware. There is something that you have to do before you become hardware. And hardware helps software to survive. So software, Oromo is a, as I mentioned, is a complex thing. So I don't want to reduce Oromo to a level of hardware and codeware. It's beyond that, because if you use that metaphor of a computer, if you relate to computer, it's not something that is tangible. You can measure it easily, you can understand it easily, but it's very interesting metaphor. Regarding comparing the progressive white in South Africa and the non-existence of progressive Habashas, this is a very difficult question. We don't have data. I heard that one time there were Amaras who joined OLF, who were born and raised in Oromia. I don't have enough data. I'm sure there are Amaras who are siding with Oromo struggle. I don't have data. I heard it. And I don't, but there are, I don't find any prominent Amara intellectuals, business people, media personalities who are coming out to denounce Ethiopian racism, Ethiopian colonialism. They rather endorse it. They rather support it. So this is an unfortunate situation that we have to deal with it. That's what I say shortly.
Okay, I think we are running out of time. I have, 5 hands raised up there, but because of time, I'm going to give chances for 2 individuals. One, Ebisa, the other, Bayan. Can you please, in the order presented, present your question very briefly so that the Professor Asafa can respond to them?
HB is holding.
Yes, there is HB, except that I said I am not going to call somebody that has no name. So, well, in that interest, I will add time. I will give you the third chance, please.
Okay. Anaaf, can you take Jara? Is it for me?
Yes. Go ahead. Yep.
Thank you very much. I always enjoy Professor Asafa's presentation. I believe all Oromos are students of OSA, so I have learned a great deal over the years from OSA and Professor Asafa's presentation. I just want to ask a brief question. I know there isn't much time. I know that there are many similar countries who have, in a similar condition that Oromos is in, that have decolonized themselves, have gained their independence. Could we use their model or teach that kind of model for Oromos so that they can achieve their ultimate objective, as you stated? The second is...
just one question is enough, please.
Sure. So forming relationship with them as well. So like recent countries that have gained independence, that have decolonized themselves, that have struggled, that have used different means and modes of struggle. Can we build a relationship with them? Can we cite some examples who have overcome insurmountable odds? Thank you.
Sir Bayan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dr. Asafa, for your informative presentation. Mine is just a comment on the question asked by Dr. Mokria. That question was, what is this Ethiopianism? What is Ethiopianism? I was also thinking about this question because I don't understand it. I would like to share with you my conversation with a person who calls himself Ethiopiawi and fights for Ethiopianism. This person has an education of high education, PhD, university professor, activist, and ethnically not Amhara. I asked this guy in the presence of many people, what is it? What is this Ethiopianism? What is the Ethiopianism? And they all were perplexed that asked this question. What the guy could say the best was that it is me. I am the example of Ethiopianism. So what is this guy? This guy has forgotten his ethnic language. He adopted Amharic as his language. He adopted Amharic history as his own history. And in a nutshell, he is a byproduct of imperial Ethiopian nation building project. So again, I said, could you guys write about it? They were not daring even to write what the Ethiopianism is and how to defend it. So I came to my own conclusion that Ethiopianism or Ethiopianism means in another way Amhara or Amharanis, because the language of Ethiopianism is Amharic, the culture of Ethiopianism is Amhara culture, and the history they adopted as the history of Ethiopia is Ethiopian history. So my commentary is that it's an ideology. Ethiopia is an ideology, a nation building, imperial ideology of one nation called Ethiopia building. And those who espouse this view are outcomes of this imperial nation building project. On another stated differently, it is antithetical to being Oromo, is antithetical to thinking about a multinational Ethiopia, even to the least. So Ethiopianism is a synonym to me in all forms and contents to being an Amhara. Very interesting thing I would like to add to this is that now there is also an Amhara-ness or Amhara movement that is evolving. These Amhara movement promoters they have started rejecting what is called Ethiopianism. Very interestingly, the person who told me he is a synonym, is an example of Ethiopianism, was not accepted by the Amhara movement promoters. So you can make your own conclusion. For me, Ethiopianism's simple definition is just another way of being an Amhara.
Okay, thank you so much. Can we move to HP, please? Because the second one is a comment. Make your questions brief. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Marartu. Professor Asafa, I'm really enlightened, and thank you so much. I read a lot of your books. It is enlightenment. But the question I had today is that you talk about elitism or elites in the society. There are a lot of elites in the society. We can take few things, which is political elites, social elites, and economic elites. But when it comes to Oromia or Oromo people, I don't see economic elites that much. But the way I see the Oromo societies are political elites. Political elites, those wobbling and like a wave maneuvering in the society. But when we define, my question is when we define about elites, elites are mostly sympathizers with the government, mostly in the society. Do you see yourself or academicians, Oromo academicians, as an elite? If so, those academicians are politician academicians are the one who is leading the way they want to and manipulating Oromo society, Oromo people who are trying to gain their independence from this colonial empire. How do you connect those elites, political elites, if they are academicians are included in this, to connect to Oromo society back home? Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Bisa's question, what lessons we draw from others? We learn from others many things. We learn, we can learn a lot of experiences. We cannot copy because our condition can be very unique because of the circumstances we find ourselves. But there are many things that we can learn from that. Unfortunately, there were 2 new countries in the Horn of Africa that achieved the so-called liberation. I wouldn't call it liberation because really Southern Sudan and Eritrea is not liberated as far as I'm concerned. They achieved flag independence. I don't want to our people learn to example of flag independence. We want to achieve full independence, where Oromo people can be sovereign, where they can elect their leaders, change their leaders, participate in their lives by reinventing the Gada CK system. So there are things we might learn, but not all of it. So let me put that way. Can we establish a relationship? Yes, if they are sympathetic to our cause, yes, we can establish a relationship. If they are not, we cannot. On the issue of Ethiopianism, Dr. Bayan gave the example of a socially dead person who committed suicide as an Oromo. That is committing suicide as a person. If you forget your identity, your culture, your belief systems, it becomes somebody else. You are dead socially. I hope that many people don't emulate this kind of person who's socially dead. But on the comment that you made, Dr. Bayan, on Amaras are trying to oppose Ethiopianism, that's not true. They want to use both sides, Ethiopianism and Amara.
Yes.
At the same time, they want to, in all approaches, they want to win. They want to dominate. They want to continue. All of them believe in the idea of they are the one who constructed Ethiopia. Therefore, they have the right to shape it the way they want. They are the one who are saying Oromos are foreigners. They don't belong there. All of them are saying that. All of them are saying we are going to teach Oromos their lessons like our fathers did. They are the same, but they are using different political tactics. For example, if you nowadays, there is no difference between the Amara regional government and the Amara political movement. They are collaborating against Oromos, against Tigrayans, against other people. They want to reinvent the dying Ethiopian empire. So I don't see the differences. Maratu, I don't really understand the question very well, but I would like to try to answer it. Academic elites, I appreciate those academic elites who contribute to the Oromo struggle. If they are making mistake, we have the right to criticize them. If your concern is they are fighting for Oromo independence of Oromia, we have to teach them. And we have to attract them to our side. We shouldn't blame them for everything, but try to attract to our side. And we have to differentiate them from other people who are collaborating with the Ethiopian government. There are many Oromo elites, including business elites. There are Oromo business elites who are supporting the Ethiopian government. They are collaborators. Oromo elites, there are many Oromo elites who are collaborators. They have joined the enemy camp. But we have to differentiate those who have joined the enemy camp and those who are fighting the Oromo rights. Well, in whatever capacity they want. Because everybody cannot be Wobo. Everybody cannot have the highest level of commitment. everybody have certain kind of commitment. We have to use that commitment to advance the Oromo struggle. And we have to attract them to our side. Thank you for listening. I appreciate all your comments. I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Asafa. I know there are 2 hands up there, but I cannot decide on the time. I will pass, I will give back my power and the stage to Dr. Baru. If you want to, you can continue with the 2 questions, allowing them. If not, I'm done here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that excellent moderation, of course, for the support of everybody.